This is the DLC we've all been waiting for. After the disappointing Beerus DLC and the multiplayer card update, which, even though it was good, it was definitely questionable whether or not that was really what Kakarot fans were looking for, I believe we're finally getting the DLC we wanted. And maybe it was my low expectations going in, but if you remember last time with Beerus, we pretty much got 2 new boss fights in a very empty area that unlocked the transformation and a special move. That DLC also completely broke the progression of the base game if you chose to engage with it, as it gave you XP items that made leveling up absolutely trivial. And I never thought you really needed XP boosts to play through Kakarot, but here comes Beerus to say otherwise. So with that DLC, I wasn't expecting much out of the Frieza DLC, and boy, I'm glad my expectations were so low, because this was definitely a nice surprise. It's not that the DLC goes above and beyond what anyone expected. In fact, I think it's exactly what everyone expected the Kakarot DLC to be. In my opinion, a good DLC in general, just speaking about general games, gives you a good reason to come back to a game that you love. A great DLC, however, will provide an even better experience. This one I would consider a good DLC, a good reason to come back to a game that you already love, which is to say, if you didn't like Kakarot, this is not going to change your mind. But if you did, it's a great excuse to come back and play through it. It's the retelling of Resurrection F's story, playing to Kakarot's greatest strengths, which in my opinion are giving you a new way to relive the Dragon Ball story, enhanced with gorgeous cutscenes and interesting boss fights. That's exactly what this DLC does. Instead of it focusing on the combat side of things alone, like the previous DLC, it actually attempts to retell the story. And my favorite moments throughout Kakarot were reliving my favorite moments of the show. And you know, I think the combat in Kakarot is fine, but that's not the star of the game. This is the shiny star of the game. These gorgeous CyberConnect 2 style cutscenes, this is where the game really shines. Now, I also don't want to give you false hopes. The story of Resurrection F is fairly short, which means you're not going to get a ton of cutscenes. You get one when Frieza transforms, another one when Vegeta transforms, then the planet getting destroyed, and then another one in the Goku vs Frieza fight. And these were really good, some of their best work in this game. But just with the cutscenes alone, I've already pretty much told you everything there is to it. It's a fairly short DLC. It starts with training, so you fight against Whis a couple times, and this is how you unlock your transformation. Then you defend the Earth from the Frieza forces with Piccolo, the Earthlings, and the Half Saiyans, and then you have 3 fights against Frieza. DLC done. And you know what? I didn't think it was too short, especially since they offer you some post-DLC content in the form of new side missions, as well as these endless challenges where you beat hordes of enemies. Speaking of, this is a new mode where you beat hordes of enemies. It's how they were able to represent the massive Frieza forces attacking the Earth. And I gotta say, out of the whole DLC, this is probably my least favorite part of it. You're not actually fighting against 100 enemies simultaneously. You defeat some and more start spawning, so no matter how powerful you are, you're always restricted by the amount of enemies there are on stage and their animations spawning into the stage. It's also clear that this combat system was not designed to beat enemies this fast, so it kind of feels like a slapped-on mode. The camera here is a nightmare, just wildly flipping back and forth every time you defeat a new enemy. It's disorienting, which means the best method to this madness is just smashing the attack button, letting your character automatically track your opponents. And while it may look flashy, this isn't fun gameplay, which is a shame because a lot of the post-game content is actually focused around this mode. The game encourages you to make the highest possible combo while using your assists. Once their assist gauge is full, you can unleash a powerful combo attack that defeats dozens of enemies at a time in this small cutscene. And that's ultimately the meta. Mash the combo, keep your assists on cooldown, and once you build a big enough combo, unleash the combo attack. Something I was also not a fan of, and this is not necessarily this DLC's fault, was the fact that I was way over leveled for this. And it's not that I've been grinding Kakarot or whatever. Level 250 was what the game was asking of me to defeat Beerus on the hardest difficulty on the previous DLC. So it's extremely weird playing this new DLC now and seeing everyone's level be so low, especially since right at the start, your level cap actually rises from 250 to 300. But again, that's not necessarily this DLC's fault. The previous DLC really broke the progression, although many RPGs have figured out this problem by scaling enemy levels according to your own. It's not a new technology, I don't see why Kakarot couldn't use it, and because it didn't even try, this story was a complete walk in the park. That said, in the post-game there are definitely level 300 challenges, that's where you can really test your strength. This DLC also brings Goku and Vegeta a new transformation, Super Saiyan Blue, as well as 2 new special attacks for each. One of them is just a beam as Super Saiyan Blues, no special properties there, it's just a more powerful beam. And the other one is a physical attack where your character targets a bunch of others, vanishes and gathers them in one place, so then you can follow up with the devastating attack if you want to. This attack was clearly designed to tackle horde modes. It costs a stupid amount of ki also, so you have to use it wisely, which I appreciate. The new Super Saiyan Blue transformation looks incredibly flashy. I love the new movesets they gave both Goku and Vegeta, but this transformation is not like the last one, where you can just go Super Saiyan God and chill. No, the Super Saiyan Blue will drain your ki over time, so you have to constantly recharge during battle, which in a way brings back the excitement of transformations. It's not just a new form, it's a power-up that you need to manage, and ultimately, that's the way I think it should be. In the post-game, like I mentioned, most of the challenges are focused around Horde mode, which I'm not a big fan of, but you got some time trials, handless modes, that kind of thing. And the side missions have been really cool in my opinion. None of them are voiced, but I've enjoyed the writing and the plot so far. The missions themselves aren't anything new, it's fetch quests and battles, but I'm enjoying Kakarot again. This DLC really plays to the game's strengths. It's somewhat nostalgic to come back. Even though the game came out earlier this year, it feels like ages ago, but it's made me enjoy Kakarot about as much as I did back when the game was released, and that's something the previous DLC didn't even come close to doing. But again, if you were not a Kakarot fan at launch, this DLC is not going to convert you into one. It's more Kakarot for the people who enjoyed it. And that really makes me excited for the last piece of DLC, because if you remember, the third DLC is supposed to be something bigger, and this was already a decent chunk of story, so I'll look forward to it. Short video for a short DLC, I mean, there's not much more to talk about, but I invite you guys to share your own opinions. If you've played the newest DLC, let us know what you thought of it in the comments down below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!